Welcome everybody from the Sparx Systems YouTube channel. It's great to have you on board today as we continue exploring our urban parking system within Enterprise Architect. And today we're going to follow on from our BPMN or Business Process and Model Notation diagrams, and we're going to look at a Business Process Level 1 diagram. So welcome, Stephen. It's great to have you here with us today. So we're going to drill down into a business process diagram to the next level, a level 1 diagram. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about that and how we go about doing it in Enterprise Architect.
Thanks for the introduction, Scott, and always a pleasure to be here. Yes, we're going to look at some more detail about business processes. And I just want to say, Scott, that this is a very large undertaking for many organizations. And I think gone are the days when people would sit down with a team for, 6 months or 8 months and flesh out all the current state processes and then try and think about the future state processes. Things happen in a much more spontaneous and agile way now. And Enterprise Architect is well positioned to be creating productivity gains and helping with people to be able to create diagrams, just in time, or enabling them to be ready for the people that need to use them. So let's make a start and dive into this. This morning, I've been doing some work with executable state machines. So a very different type of language and technology. I'm going to change our focus now by setting our perspective up in the top right-hand corner of the application. Drop down the arrow there, and you can see we've got perspective sets. I'm going to be doing some business modeling, and then the perspectives are BPMN, BPSIM, business motivation. I'm going to choose BPMN. That stands for the Business Process Model and Notation, a language, a universally accepted language for modeling business processes and choreography, collaboration, and other diagrams. So let's have a look at that. We choose that option there. The builder page pops up and sets our focus onto this particular topic. And you can see that business process model and notation diagrams are there. These are patterns, if you like, things that you can inject into your own models as productivity starters, if you like, to get you started. But as always, Scott, I like to do things from first principles, show people how they can do this from scratch, and then by all means, return to this very productive page where you can create models just by clicking on the Create Models button, and they're injected into your model. Let's close that for the time now, and let's look at our business processes. The work that we've done in a previous video was to define a number of business processes for the organization. So let's have a quick look at that, because that's going to be our starting point. And like with lots of modeling, Scott, you're not just doing something randomly in an unstructured, uncharted part of the model. You're often wanting to build on other people's work. If you're someone that's an analysis kind of person, a requirements modeler, you might want to be building your work on strategic models and saying, look, the people that are steering the ship of this organization know what they're doing. They've created strategy models and strategic models, and now I want to link to those and start carrying the work down to a further level. So we'll open up the business process diagram. That's what it looks like there. I'll just tuck my toolbox away there to give us a bit more room using the little chevron above the start page there. And you can see now that I've got my diagram pretty much in full view there. So we started with this model and we looked at the sort of the high level processes that are going on. Manage customers, manage permits, manage reservations, manage payments and billing, manage disputes. So these are very high level things. And we link some of these to the value chain, and we could do more work in that regard. But manage infrastructure as a process was linked to this value chain item. Now I can look at that, right mouse click on it and say, find in all diagrams, and you'll see that's popped up on another screen. I'll just drag that onto this one, and you can see it's in the value chain. And I can open up that diagram and see that it's connected to the value chain. So I guess it's sort of putting all your cards on the table. There's nothing up my sleeve. I'm actually connecting these things. I'm not just doing random work. I'm actually following down from the strategy that's driving the business. So let's go back to our business process diagram. We'll close that value chain for a minute, and let's look at our business processes. We mentioned in the previous video that there's an icon in the bottom right-hand corner of each of the business process elements, and it indicates that there is a diagram below this particular diagram that is going to contain more information. The word drill down comes to my lips, Scott, because that's what you're actually doing. You're drilling down to another level. Now, there's an icon here that allows me to see that diagram. So I'm going to click on that icon, and you can see that the diagram is blank.
It's empty at the moment.
Yeah, that's what we're up to now. We're going to take this down further and show how we connect it. The one that we're going to be interested in is manage reservations. Now, I've got the opportunity here now to change the title of this if I want to. I think I got some feedback from people saying that they thought it might be applying to travel reservations or something. So I'm going to put in here parking reservations. The urban parking system doesn't allow people to book travel arrangements. I mean, that would be very, very nice, giving away some free tickets to destinations around the world. But we're going to put that in there just to clarify that. I'm just showing you that to say that there's nothing precious about changing things if you need to. So let's double click on this element, and that will take me down into the manage reservations diagram. Now you can see that in the tab at the top, and I can quite easily use the back tracking arrow there to get back again, just to show you that the whole thing is connected. Yep. Now I might want to find that diagram in the browser, and I can simply click in the diagram canvas. You can see that there's some notes that I put in there
about the diagram, yes,
about the diagram, which is always good. And now I can say, look, find that in the browser, and you can see that that's neatly positioned under the manage parking reservations business process. So let's get our toolbox back. I popped that away a little while ago. I can use the chevron there to pop that back out again, and I'll just do that. Notice that the toolbox has all the kind of elements that we need, the business process elements, the business process connectors, and also types, which are some generic things that are used across all the business process diagrams. I'm going to tuck that way again. I can just collapse that away. Now, where I start, Scott, is with a start event, and that's a useful thing to do. And I'm going to put that onto the palette there, and I might put a message on there as an indicator, and I'll call this reservation initiated. So give it a title, a title there. And remember, Scott, that I always like to put some notes into these things, even though people might think, well, it's obvious it's a start event, but putting some notes in gives some information about it. Marks the initiation of the reservation process when a motorist begins to request a parking spot. The trigger point begins the workflow that will guide the user through the entire parking reservation cycle. So it gives some information there. Now, more than probably any other diagram, I like to use the quick linker. You can use the quick linker in any of the diagrams in Enterprise Architect, but I like to use it here because it allows me just to kind of keep the flow of things going. So I'm going to use that quick linker. I drag it out to some space, and I'm dropping, well, my cursor pointer is pointing to the location where I want this element to be. I'm going to call this an activity and a sequence flow too. And this is where you don't need to know, all of the language in its detail. Enterprise Architect is helping you. It's prompting you and saying, hey, what kind of thing do you want? And I know I want an activity. This is describing some of the work that the system's going to do. And I know I want a sequence flow to it. So that's the top option. I'll choose that there. It also gives me the option of putting in what type of activity this is. And I'll say it's a user activity. And then I'm prompted for the name, and I could just simply start typing.
So when you selected user, did it put the little icon of a person in the top corner?
Yeah, that's right, Scott. That's a marker. That's from the BPMN language, and it's the kind of most universal marker that you can use. It doesn't mean that someone is going to do the work manually, because there is a marker for that as well. It means that it's something that is going to be a combination probably of manual and automated processes that are going to carry this out. We'll just move this along a little bit, this element, make reservation, and The next thing we'll do is we'll put another activity there, and we'll call it an activity, sequence flow 2, and again, we'll choose the user one and monitor reservations. So important.
So he's doing a lot of the hard work behind the scenes, isn't it? Because it's giving you the options and
yeah, absolutely
specifying it all for you.
Yeah, it's really a great great tool for productivity gains, because I've done this diagram in a very short period of time. I'm going to create another activity there, sequence flow 2, and actually I'll end it here. Actually, I'll put in an end event. We'll stop this here because these are the key things. So I'm looking here for an end event, sequence flow 2, and I'll say none there. I don't want any marker in there. And you can see that work's been done. I can easily just use the tool to lay out this diagram. So I move these things across a bit, and the magic can happen from the layout ribbon. I'll just say, line them all by centers, space them evenly across, and that work is kind of done for me. I don't need to do much about it. Now remember, Scott, I do like to put in the notes for all of these things. So I do encourage people to put notes in, descriptions of what these things are about, to make reservation on there. The initial activity allows motorists to create a new parking reservation using their profile information. So, already in there is some sort of indication. We're starting to tell a narrative. What is this profile information? So let's go and have a look at that. And, the person that's put these notes in has already started to think about that. And where can I find something about profiles? Well, again, I can use my model search, and I can just simply use Control F. I'm using Control F on my keyboard to bring that up, and I'm going to look for profile, and we'll see what comes up there. So look at that. There's a whole range of things that are about profiles. So interesting that there's all these things already in the tool. So let's have a quick look at some of these. We'll just right mouse click on that one and say, find in diagrams, and there's a whiteboard diagram of cloud connections. So let's have a look at that. And that's in the whiteboard mode. I might go back to this thing now and say, look, let's have another look at that. The motorist one, find in diagrams again. And let's look at this one here. And we can see that there's some sort of storage, a data storage thing there that's looking at motorist profiles. So we know that they're being stored. So we can continue this exploring. I'm going to look at this one here. I think this third one from the bottom, profile, is the one that I want. It's a class element.
I see the notes are coming up as well. So it's another reason for having good detailed notes, because it gives you context when you're searching 100 different classes. You can just click on it and read the notes and go, oh, that's the one I want.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Scott. So that's the one I want. I'm just going to say find in all diagrams, and you can see there it's profile information, and it's going to be linked to the vehicle, and it's also going to be linked to the motorist. So I'm going to put that connector in there, and we'll say that the motorist has got a profile. In fact, the profile is also related to the vehicle, and let's make a little amendment to this. The profile could be for multiple vehicles. So let's just make a slight change to that multiplicity and say that the profile could be actually for one or more vehicles there. So this is what happens when we're working with models. We do things like this. We want the motorist to simply have a single profile, and even though we were working in that business process world, it's the modeler's prerogative and what you should be doing as you work through the models, to be updating models as you go with new information. So we've got that information there. Let's put this down a little bit and change the connector style there a bit. Very simple to do, Scott. Just move these things around, and we'll say that the motorist has a profile, and you can see that they've only got one profile, and a profile is for one motorist, and a motorist has one profile. So having done that, let's close our whiteboard diagrams that we explored there a little bit, and let's close our find in project again and back to our managed reservations. So you see we're flicking between different parts of the model. So what we need to do is put some information on here about this make reservation. So it's using a profile. The thing that BPMN has in its toolbox is a data object. So let's drag that onto the palette and let's call this as an input. It's an input object, and let's call it motorist profile. That's then becomes, interesting, and people are able to see what it is. Now, let's put in some information again about what that profile is into the notes. So we'll do that. Structured data record containing essential user information, including name, date of birth, address, parking preferences, and all those. Now, I can connect that up to the diagram there and to the make reservation activity, I should say. And it's a data input association. So this information is going into that. Now, having done that, as always, Scott, I want to be able to connect my models that I'm drawing up to other parts of the repository information, thus telling a story that's connected. Imagine that you had a novel that you're reading and, there wasn't a plot. There was just a whole lot of characters that were just doing things and they weren't connected to each other. That wouldn't make for a very interesting story. This, however, is starting to create that plot, that narrative of how everything connects. And it allows people in their minds to be able to start to see the, the connections and to create that narrative. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at that class model and say, look, where is that element in the project browser? So I'll just select that element, use the icon on the top of the browser toolbar that says find the context element. So profile is the context element. It's currently the selected element. And I'll say, where is it? And it's come up here. You can see that's the element that's in the, let's represent that in the project browser. I'm going to go back to my manage reservation and I'm going to use that element and put it onto my diagram and link that there. Now, for the BPMN purists out there, the people that think that the language is pure and shouldn't be kind of changed or altered things, the message for you people is that's true, and we're not touching the standard syntax of the BPMN. But what we're doing is we're enriching the diagram. We're creating some narrative that's going to help people understand what this is about. And so we've got an element that's actually a UML class. We can see this is from the class model, and Enterprise Architect very usefully, helpfully gives us a prefix to that saying it's coming, the profile is coming from the class model. And again, I'm going to trace that element. So the main element is probably a higher level than this business process. We've done it, we've created the element before. I'm going to drag here and I'm going to create a trace. So again, the trace is not part of the BPMN language, but we're allowed to use that. The specification says that we're allowed to add connectors and enrich the diagrams in ways that help us. So, Scott, I'm going to get you to perform some of your time travel magic, and we'll just do a couple of things to this diagram, and we'll be back in a few seconds.
Welcome back, everybody. I've performed a little bit of time travel and editing magic, and here we are. And we have our level 1 business process diagram. And I can see that we've added a little bit of color. So over to you, Stephen, to tell us a little bit about this model and this diagram and how it can help establish some good narrative and story around our business process.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. We have finished the diagram, and yes, color has been used to make the diagram more attractive to business users and to help people digest the information that's on it. We're using the sort of traffic light kind of colors, the green and the red for the start and the end event there. And the activities or tasks have been colored in yellow. Now, I haven't done that manually, Scott. This is actually happening dynamically. And if I look at what's going on, you can see that I've introduced a BPMN business process legend that's got start event, activity gateway, data object, end event. It doesn't have all of the elements on it at this stage because they're just the ones that we're using. And that is dynamically coloring the model. So I didn't make that up. Actually, I kind of reused it. It's almost like
Mhm.
I cheated by getting it from the library. So we've got a library of legends up here. We've got image asset libraries and checklist libraries, and you'll see that that element is there. And if I was to select that element and locate it in the project browser, you can see that it's there. So it's the thing that's actually dynamically driving the coloring of those elements. Now, I might just make a slight change to this, Scott, just so that it, just to show people that this is possible. The legend seems to indicate that the domain element is kind of part of the business process model and notation language. So what I'm going to do is just show you what I can, how I can adjust the legend. And I'm going to choose this one here, and I'm going to put in domain element, and I'm going to put in UML after it there, and that's going to, that's going to indicate to people that that's part of the UML. So just something to bear in mind, that people that are familiar with this language might get a shock when if they're used to been doing it in another tool and they haven't got the flexibility that Enterprise Architect has got to be able to place elements from other models onto this. Now, I've seen people using general purpose business process modeling tools, and they work very well, but they don't have this incredible ability to be able to link to other parts of the models. And just to reiterate, Scott, because I think it's important, look at the diagram title in the tab up here. We've got manage reservations, and there's a little backtracking arrow to the left of that, and if I click on that, we get back up to our level where we've got the main processes. And again, if people haven't seen this video, I encourage you to go and look at this one. We've connected elements here to the value chain. So this firm infrastructure and this technology development down here, which is managed digital assets, is the process, but it's connected to that. And I can just simply go there and find that element in the model, and you'll see that when we do that, it's in the value chain, and it's part of the value chain. There's notes on there explaining what that is. The corporate infrastructure provides the strategic backbone and governance framework for the digital parking meter system. So we've linked across from class models because we had our profile as well. If you remember that, we can drill down again onto managed reservations here. So we can just keep drilling down there. And this element, remember, came, if we look at that again, we say, find in all diagrams, and we can say, look, it's in the class model as well. So we're linking all these models up. But
could you perhaps show how you could trace from one of those higher level elements, say on the value chain, all the way down to a business process?
Yeah, so we've done that with the drill down, Scott. We have a
Yep.
traceability window that's available as well. Now, we've got a number of ribbons here, and I can choose the design ribbon there and look at the traceability window. So it's on the element panel, and I bring that up, and we can see the connection between elements. So if I was, to go to my, value chain and look at that element, you can see now that it's managed parking reservations motorist profile there. It's connected to that one, association to vehicle, association to motorist, and I can drill down managed parking reservations there. So it goes down, and what's this one connected to? Managed payments and billing. So I can do that, find in all diagrams there, and
I just think that adds so much power to the story that you're trying to tell, and it shows how things are connected. And
yeah, absolutely, Scott.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when I have that value chain, when I look at the diagram, it just looks like a diagram, and I can't see those connections on the diagram. I can on the other ones that we've drawn, like on the business managed reservations, I can start to see the connections. But on this particular diagram, I don't want this diagram cluttered up with lots of other elements. It's a simple, clear diagram, strategic model that the business want to use. But as you said, when I go into that traceability window, I can start to see all of the things that are going on from that context.
And you could do a presentation to management to show how some of this strategy has actually resulted in some real world outcomes in the rest of the model.
Yeah, and that we're in the model that we're doing when we implement the model, we're honouring the valuable and important contribution that the people at that strategic level, at the CX level, have made, and we're not making things up ourselves. We're carrying out their instructions. We're following through on the things that they've decided are the right things for the organization. So yeah, it's all good. And in the next video, Scott, we're going to even drill down even further from this model and look at how we go down to the next level in our hierarchy.
Excellent. Well, thank you once again, Stephen. Appreciate your expertise, and it just makes it look so easy. It felt like you're just using the quick linker and it built it automatically for us. I know that's not the case, but it looked pretty easy to me. As always, for our audience, I would like to thank you for joining us today. If you've liked what you've seen today, please subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and give us some feedback on the videos. We love hearing from you. And we look forward to seeing you in future videos on the Sparx Systems YouTube channel. There's many videos, probably hundreds for you to choose from, so you can learn more about Enterprise Architect and some of the other tools that Sparx Systems produces. As always, thank you for your time, Stephen. Greatly appreciate it.
Always a pleasure to be here, Scott. Thank you.
Thank you.